noises.
Yep.
It's always good.
Oh,
Wow.
we're live. And no one's here yet, so that's fine. We can swear and curse and start insulting people.
No.
Oh, no, never mind. There's 6 people here. We can't do that. Everyone stop insulting authors. So what's up, Team Tobias? Show comments on stage. That's what we want to do, Anne, right? Is that okay?
Yes.
I can do that. Okay, cool. I did that.
Oh, actually, those are just the comments that are going to be in the. I think we were both thinking for a moment that's the question, but those are going to be the comments that pop up in the sidebar. So I mean, you can have them; it's fine, but they'll just all come scrolling through over Jackie's beautiful face.
And Kelly.
Okay.
Oh no, over my face. Okay, well that's fine.
I'd like to see what happens when someone does that. So if someone comments, we can see. I guess let's wait a few minutes for more people to arrive. We can see. Oh, see, there it is. So if you want me to take it off, I can take it off. I don't care. Make a decision. I'm putting it in your hands.
Well, I think the questions are going to cover it up probably because they go along with them.
Oh, true. Here in the comments, hello. Oh, it's Chelsea Moyer. Hello, Chelsea. That's our social media manager, Maven, who does everything and is fantastic. And
extraordinaire.
Yes. Kelly, did you switch rooms? Oh, okay. Hello, Steven.
I shut my door. You mean switch rooms since we started this?
No, since
forever. This is where this is my office. It's where
That's her office.
That's what I thought. I don't know. It's 7:00 on a Wednesday, y'all. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I got new glasses and it confused him. I think that's what it is.
Oh, very nice new glasses. I love them. They make my heart sing. Are they red or purple? I can't tell in the camera.
They're red right now.
Okay. Do they change?
Where were you 10 minutes ago?
Clearly somewhere else. Do they change in the sun?
Yes, they're magic glasses. See? Like they're red and now they're black.
Oh, they're one of those where you can click on. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So cool. And they're prescription, right?
Yeah, like the blacks are like the base frame, and then you just add whatever you want.
That's so cool. I love it. And they're like good. How long have you had them? Are they worth it?
24 hours. So, but they're like it's normal glasses. So,
but they sound fun.
Yeah, they are fun. But yes, they do work. They're my new prescription. So they're like, I have like 1 million pairs of glasses floating around my house, and these are the only ones that are none of them are the same prescription. They're all a little bit different.
That's pretty funny. I got those transition ones so that in the sun they automatically turn to sunglasses. I didn't realize until after I got that they always have a tint to them. So I am never seeing the world as it really is. I'm always seeing it as a little darker, and that freaks me out. I'm like not seeing the real world, like I'm in the Matrix or something. To quote him from moments ago, it's 7:00 on a Wednesday. He doesn't know what's going on. Yeah, that's very true. And I know Anne put that up there because I didn't, and she's the only one who can control it. Okay, so there's 11 people here. What time is it? It's 7:04, and I guess we'll start at 7:05. Are any of us ever really seeing the world as it is?
I mean, that is a great question. I actually wondered the exact same thing when he said that.
That is a good question. We could have a hour-long conversation about that.
I have like a mark in one of my eyes, and I had an eye doctor or someone who was looking at my eyesight, maybe it was one of those things when you were a kid or whatever, asked me, well, do you see things differently? And I was just like,
then what?
Then what? Like, I don't know. Like, what am I supposed to be seeing? I don't know.
Do you see floaters?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, interesting. I see them all the time. And it took me, I don't know, 3 decades to realize what they were. Okay, so I guess we should start with first sentences because Chelsea so wisely put a first sentence from each of our published books. Not that
Right, I
we
think
published them.
we should probably preempt this, that we're gearing up for when we do our first pages, right? And so in order to do that, we thought today we would talk about firsts, right? While we're still gearing up and getting all this stuff ready for our first pages session that's going to happen. I think we just decided it's going to be happening in the new year, correct?
Yes, I knew that and was a part of that conversation.
Well, nobody else out there in the audience was, so I thought maybe we should fill them in on our
Yeah.
situation. Will this be recorded? Yes, these are all recorded and they are posted after and available later on. So if you do have to leave early, feel free and then just watch the replay. I mean, it won't be as funny, but
I
right?
think it could be as funny. I mean,
I
we're
don't know.
a funny bunch, I think. So, are we going to read the first sentences now that Anne explained it?
Sure.
Sure.
We
Okay.
can do that.
Let's go down the list, and I assume the list is the same for everyone. So the first one is for Kelly.
All right, I can read this one. And do we also want to it says read these first sentences and tell us what makes them work. Okay, I will do that. And then I'll also have some other comments because people might find it interesting. But this is from Callie C. Miller's The Hunt for the Hollower. And it was Callie's birthday just 2 days ago. So if she's watching, happy birthday, Callie.
Happy birthday, Kelly.
Happy birthday.
Merlinda. Okay, I'll start over. Merlinda of Merlin Manor hadn't meant to turn every inkwell in the stationery shop into miniature, never-ending geysers. Period. So what is working with that sentence? This is a middle grade book. So I think initially the fact that you know the name of the character immediately and of Merlin Manor tells us that she is, she's from someplace important. And the fact that she can turn inkwells, she's in a stationery shop, which is an interesting place to be. And she can turn inkwells into geysers. Tells us maybe she has some sort of ability, but she didn't mean to do that. So you wonder why. And I think that this sentence really works as a first sentence because really it just piques your curiosity. You have a lot of questions, and yet you are grounded in who the character is and where she is at that moment. Inkwell in a stationery shop. So maybe she's not using a ballpoint pen. She's using an inkwell. So it's probably a different time or maybe a different world than ours. What's interesting is this is not the first sentence of the book when I saw it. This was added. In fact, they had her write a whole additional new first chapter for this published book. So I think that's kind of interesting. This was not new to me. I've read the book since it's been published, but it was new to me. I didn't do this with her. She wrote this sentence with her editor. So I think that's kind of interesting. So I think it's always good for a first sentence to ground the reader either in a place or in a character while still creating curiosity. So that's why I think that sentence works, particularly for middle grade. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I wanted to add. Oh, go ahead, Anne.
I was just going to say, I think it's a great first sentence that it would definitely make me want to keep reading it if that was the first sentence of something that I picked up.
And I was going to say,
what happens if they're never ending geysers? That could create quite a mess.
And the writing style is very playful, with the alliteration. I mean, every word in that sentence has been carefully chosen to create a mood which draws you into the story.
Yep.
So, tangent, I've been watching Gen V, And this reminds me of Gen V, and that the episode ends, and I'm like, what the F? I need to know what happens next. You can't leave it like that. So, I mean, like you said, the geysers, I'm like, what the F? What's going on? It reminds me of Stranger Things. Is she blowing stuff up? What's going on? I have to keep reading. Luckily, there's probably a sentence after that one, so I keep reading. So that is a great first sentence. I agree with everything.
Good.
Anne's turn.
Yes, here, let me put it up on the link for all to see, so it makes it easier for everyone, and then I can read it. All right, so this one is from, it's this book right here, which is Cynthia Timothy's Salty Spice and a Little Bit Nice. Most people would agree that marriage proposals weren't supposed to make you nauseous. Now, I don't know if this was the first line when she queried me with this. I don't remember. It's been a while since that time. But I do think that it works because it is a romance, and you immediately like, uh-oh, something bad's happening here, right? Like something has gone amiss. We're forked. Like, what's happening? If someone were to even say this, if this was dialogue, I feel like also it would pass the coffee shop test, because you'd be like, wait a minute, someone got sick because they were proposed to? Like, there's drama here. I want to hear what's going on. So I think that works as a really great sentence.
And I think that starting with most people would agree that is much more effective than, character name felt nauseous when blah, 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 because it's inviting the reader. It's saying, well, most people would think this. Are you one of those? It pulls you in as the reader.
Mm-hmm.
And as a male, it makes me think, what is wrong with their partner that when they get proposed to, they're going to throw up? Because the very idea of your partner proposing to you, or I guess anyone proposing to you, I mean, that's supposed to be a moment for social media that gets filmed and shared with millions of people. And usually you're happy and crying, not holding back throw up. That's just where my head's at. Kelly?
I agree. I don't have much to add. I loved the I want to read more. And I think that's ultimately the question of like, what does a first sentence do? Does it make you want to read more? Jackie said this, but I especially love the fact that it says, or that opens with the most people would agree, because it does invite the reader to consider, well, as a reader, am I most people? And do I agree with this? So like, I'm immediately involved and invested as a reader, which is great.
And actually, to me, because I overthink everything, it does to me harken back to, it's a truth universally known that, single women are, Jane Austen. And it's playing, it's a romance, and it's playing on that classical opening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my turn. And this comes from Johnny Compton's Devils Kill Devils, which I think we're actually discussing the paperback for now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there it is. She clicked the light switch on the hotel room wall, and in the infinitesimal space between the absence and arrival of light, a space undetectable to the mind, much less the eye, Sarita Bardales saw someone who could not be in the room. And what I love about that is because it's a lyrical way to start something, and you immediately, or at least for me, I see that moment when you flick on the light and there's something there for that split nanosecond that it can't be. And I get that feeling way too much. And I think it's just, especially for a horror, I think it's a great image. So you want to keep reading, especially if you keep reading that first scene is a horror show, and you'll be hooked.
I mean, it's definitely already creates like an ambiance with like the description of the space and like the absence and arrival of light. Like I like the use of language that is playing with there.
I also just want to interrupt to suggest that Cato 9602 should be doing their homework.
Oh.
Is that someone's child?
Theoretically, it could be, yes.
I'm
Gotcha.
thinking that it probably is.
Gotcha. They may find themselves homeless later tonight.
They may.
Good to know. Okay, Anne, you're up next again.
I think we're going to skip mine and let Jackie do hers because
But what if I don't want to?
I don't think it's fair that I got to do two.
Well, I have something to say about this. But Lane's though is that
Good,
okay.
please.
Like that actually kind of caused. I think everybody's had a situation where they have experienced this in the rush of adrenaline that maybe causes goosebumps to come to your skin and like that startle reflex. So she's creating, or Johnny is creating that reaction in the reader, but you don't see that reaction in the character, which I think is really brilliant. But you know exactly what Sarita Bardales, whatever, however you say that, is feeling. And I also love that you immediately know that she's in a hotel room. And again, I want to know why. I would definitely keep reading because I've got questions. Questions are good.
And also why that person couldn't possibly be there. Is it because they're dead? Is it because they're in another city? Is it because, I want to know that.
Yeah. I once sat down with, I forget his position at Blumhouse, and he said that the kind of movies they look for are stuff like that you can tell what's up or that there's something going to happen in the first scene. And that's, I think, first sentences, something's up, something's going to happen, like blowing up all the ink wells,
Yep.
This is actually an interesting one, contextually. So it starts, dragon and unicorn agree on everything. Okay, maybe not everything. This was actually developed, it's a social emotional learning graphic novel that was developed by the author with the editor, and illustrations were added, so it's heavily illustrated. And I had no idea how they were going to do it when we were first talking about the project. But I don't know, that's 10 words, but it immediately tells you the conceit of the book, because the conceit of the book is pitting these two characters in a bunch of situations and, figuring out really for younger readers how to deal with difficult situations that involve friends that, you may not agree with or you may not understand. But it has to be very simple because it's heavily illustrated and, the text and illustrations are supporting each other. So that's actually, for what this project is a very effective opening.
Yeah.
Very young graphic novel, not YA, for young readers.
I like dragons and unicorns, so.
Yes, they're very cute. I don't have the book with me because I'm in the wrong place right now, but it's very, very cute. And it just came out recently.
It makes me think of a project that one of my authors has where there is a war between dragons and unicorns. And so I immediately got the reference there. So I don't know, because you would think, well, magical creatures, but not all magical creatures get along. So I really liked it.
It's true. So should first sentences always inspire a question from the reader? What do we think? Always. That's always inspire a question from the reader. How do we feel about the word always?
That's the question. Coming back, but I'm I think that first sentences should always inspire curiosity. I don't know that that always results in a question, but I think I'm still tempted to probably say yes, because the question should be what happens next. And if you don't have that question, then why would you keep reading?
Yeah.
I think you're right, Kelly.
Same. Back to Gen V, you know, they end an episode. I'm like, what the F? WTF? You know, that's a question. As much as I'd like to say it's not, it is. I'm asking. WTF? Okay. What is important for you to see on the first page of a manuscript? What don't you want to see on the first page? What pulls you out of the story
I
immediately?
thought we would do them separately, but
That might be easier.
Yes, that is much easier. What is more important to see on the first page of a manuscript?
I think it's interesting that all of the first sentences that we read at the beginning, none of them involved a character waking up.
Oh my goodness. That's so weird.
I don't think there were any weather reports.
Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah, I get a lot of the weather reports.
And nobody was running.
Is that another one? People start out running?
A lot of fantasy starts with people running.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You don't know why they're running. They're just running.
I mean,
I guess
this is going to the ones we don't want on the first. I have this weird thing about people sort of pulling the car into the new whatever. And I know that's just me because a lot of stories start that way, but I've just seen so many manuscripts where the car pulls up to the new house or the new this or the new that. And I'm like, could we do something that doesn't involve pulling into the place with the car? But whatever.
All right. So let's go back to our first one, which is what is important to see on the first page. I think you've talked about this before, Kelly, and I think you've explained this really well. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like you've just done such a great job before explaining this. So maybe you could do it again.
Okay. So in the very first page, it's just, I don't know that I have a rote answer for this, but I do want to have a sense of who the character is and where they are, and then have a question but not confusion. And that's a really hard thing to create, is questions without confusion. Or if you are confused, you need to have confidence that you're confused because the author wants you to be confused. And that's handling of good writing. And so really on our first page or first 10, I mean, I don't know that I've ever answered the very first page, but the first.
Maybe. I thought you have.
What did I say?
I think that there's also an importance of having character, right? Like having character on that first page to understand the story. I see a lot of times where people just kind of just go on and on about some narrative, something or another. And it's just like, okay, well, but where are we? When are we? Who are we? What are we doing? So just that establishing grounding, I think, is really important.
Yeah, the big W's. And I feel like a lot, especially in the first 10 pages, I do a lot of critiquing of first 10 pages for conferences. And the writing can be really strong and you can have a sense of what is going on, but they leave out the issue of why. And why is, I think, more important almost than what, because without the why, you don't have, you can't develop stakes. You can't develop characters' internal arcs. So just giving us a sense of what the character wants and why in those first 10 pages, but that can even be whittled down even more into the first page, just having a sense that that's what you're leading to. So those W's. W questions like who, what, where, when, and why.
Now we can go on to our what we don't want to see. Jackie, what don't we want to see?
Well, there's a lot of people driving cars around in storms with bad weather and the waves crashing against the rocks on the cliffs below. And this really is what Anne was saying. I'm very character driven. I want to know whose story it is. I want to know, who the main character is, why I should care about them. What I always think about the promises that are being made to the reader in that first couple of pages. what kind of story? Is it a story is it a journey I want to go on? So if I've got a whole lot of, exposition and explanation, and a lot of, I mentioned this with Anne's, Cynthia's salty, spice, and a little bit nice, that could have started with she plus verb plus felt nauseous, and that name plus verb construction repeated over and over again, which is often a first draft thing. But if your page looks like that, it suggests you need to revise it a little bit because you're still telling the story to yourself. So that's another one that if I see a lot of, if it's first person, I plus verb, if it's third person, name plus verb, and it just, it's not interesting. Has Cato gone to do their homework now? I hope so. They seem to have gone.
Cato might have gone to doing their homework.
Good.
Lane or Kelly, did either of you have anything that you don't like to see on your first page?
Character waking up, definitely, but I don't say it often because I leave that to you. But it's
I'm sorry.
That's a big one. And for me as well, it's I read a lot of manuscripts that come to me in first person and like describing things that I was doing this, or I, like you said, but it's starting everything with I, and you need to figure out a way to actually get into the head of the character instead of starting every sentence with an I.
Incidentally, that is what my child looks like.
I was going to ask about the cat. I was like, whose cat is that? Or is that your daughter? I don't remember.
It's probably, that's what my daughter looks like, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. What I don't want on the first or the starting page, don't start. I don't like stuff that starts with dialogue that doesn't say anything. I'll always remember I read this book and the first line was someone saying, "Let's get some light in here, gentlemen." And I was like, that doesn't really say much, but it says they're in a dark room and there's a bunch of dudes and what's going on. So I think that's why that line is always stuck with me. But everyone else is right, so I'm not saying anything else.
And it is actually tricky to start with a line of dialogue and do it well. Mm-hmm. And everyone uses the example of Charlotte's Web as an example where that was in fact done really well, because it's where's Papa going with that axe? And it's a little kid at the breakfast table saying it, and it works there. But
because it passes the coffee shop test. If you were in a coffee shop and someone said next to you, "Where's Papa going with that axe?" you'd be like, wait a second, what is happening here in this coffee shop? Right? It's got to pass the coffee shop test.
Why does he have an axe?
Yeah.
I mean, you would want to know, wouldn't you? You would want to know if you were sitting in that coffee shop who had an axe and what they were doing with it.
Okay. So what pulls you out of the story immediately beyond the first sentence?
That's a good one.
Oh. Too much telling?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've got one. Addressing the reader. I don't love it when the narrator or the protagonist addresses the reader. It needs to, unless there's a reason why, but like a lot of times it'll be several pages in and then they'll say, what do you think? Or, or you would think, or I know what you're thinking. That's
it like breaks that fourth wall. And you're like, wait a minute, why are you talking to me?
Right. I think in general, the reader should never be aware of themselves when they are reading a story. It causes too much distance, interestingly. So.
Yeah, I think with me, it's going back to the point about dialogue, flat explanatory dialogue. Even after I know who the characters are and what the situation is, often an author will think, well, it's not really telling it's showing if the characters are talking. But if the talking is just to convey information and there's no sort of narrative tension or conflict or anything interesting going on, where I'm just being told information through dialogue, that's one that becomes annoying.
Yeah, like if two people are talking and one of them's like, "John, we're best friends, right?" Like, who the hell says that? You don't say that to your best friend. You just say, "Hey, John, I'm feeling sad." You don't say, "We're best friends, so let me tell you, I'm feeling sad."
And it's even more interesting if you don't say, "I'm feeling sad," if you say something else coupled with an action that doesn't match the thing you said. So the reader gets a little bit of work to do, gets involved in sort of figuring out, well, why is he acting like that? Or why did he say that? That's much more interesting than just saying, "This is the emotion I am experiencing."
Yeah.
I think too, like a recap doesn't really work very well in those first pages. Like the author trying to recap us on, okay, well, so last night or yesterday or last year or whatever, like the circumstances that are led up to this moment. I don't think that recap quite works. If it's important enough to recap it, why aren't we just watching it? I guess is the question.
Yeah.
So I think that can be tricky sometimes to do that.
And I often think if it gets to that, if it gets to information that we need to know at that point and it happened in the past, drop in a flashback so we can experience it in the moment. Don't sort of convey through dialogue everything that happened.
Yeah, I'm a don't use flashbacks in the first chapter kind of.
Not in the first chapter.
Me.
Oh, sorry, we're in the first chapter. I forgot. Yes, I was thinking like when you get to the second chapter. Yes, I agree with you.
Oh, good. That's what I was just going to read, Anne.
I know. I was reading your mind.
Thank you. Go ahead, read it since I have bad eyesight. I can't read that.
I don't have my reading glasses on. Okay. So Johnny J asks, my first page is 3 paragraphs that establishes the who, what, where, and why of my story. The first sentence contains the hook. The protagonist tells us what they did. The rest of the novel is spent looking at how. Is this a smart strategy?
Jackie, you have thoughts?
No, this is one of my I don't understand the question moments, because is the rest of the story telling us how through explanation, or are we going on a journey? Because there's not enough information for me in that question to know how to answer it.
Yeah, is this like, I guess is this the thing that it's just like, I murdered Joe, and then like the rest of the story is telling us how Joe was murdered? It's a good point. I'm not exactly sure what it's trying to say either, Jackie.
I think the key is so the protagonist tells us what they did. That's in the past. So the rest of the novel is looking at how they did it or why. I guess the question I would have is it could be a good strategy only if there's a way to introduce stakes. Like if it's done in the past, then you've answered the question. You may have undermined your power by removing any of the stakes from the story. But again, it's hard to know without knowing exactly what they did. And
yeah, I'm going with Jackie. It's a kind of question I can't even understand enough to answer. I don't know.
Why don't we move on to our next question?
Yes, please.
What expectations do you have for the first chapter of a book? I think we already kind of did this.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one. Sorry, I'm just copying and pasted. I didn't read it before I posted.
Tisk, tisk.
I know. Trying to keep up. All right, this one is, are there any first chapters of books that are memorable examples of what to do in a first chapter? So, favorite first chapters.
Well, there's one I always go to when I'm thinking about client books. I often refer to my client Zipporah Cohen's No Vacancy, which is a middle grade that came out like quite a few years ago now. But the thing that she rewrote that first chapter 39 times or more. So that's why it's good. It's not her first draft. But if you look at even the first page, which is about 12 lines long, and there is a lot of dialogue in that first 12 lines, and it is in a car, but they are not parking somewhere. They are going somewhere. And through sort of 12 lines of dialogue, you learn, not through exposition, that they've left their home in the city. They're going to go and take over this motel in a rural town. And, their whole life is going to change. And the protagonist isn't happy about it and doesn't really understand it. But the dialogue isn't about, oh, we are going to this place. It's about, well, can we pull over? The brother wants to pee. We had a Slurpee and, we passed this road sign that says name of town, population 583. Oh my God, that's small. So it's just very well done, very word economical. And you infer what has changed for this girl and why it's going to be a problem for her.
Not to keep pumping Johnny Compton and Devils Kill Devils, but that first chapter is absolutely insane, and everyone who's ever read it has been like, holy crap, I didn't see that coming. That's wild. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. So that's, I think, a very good first chapter, something that you can, actually remember, because usually it's the first sentence I think people remember as opposed to a whole first chapter. Like, I don't remember the first chapter of Frankenstein, and that's my favorite book of all time. I would literally have to go back and read it.
And everyone remembers the first sentence of 1984 because it's about the clock struck 13.
Yeah.
I probably one of my first chapters that I do remember is The Summer of Styx Malone by Kekla Magoon. And that's just a phenomenal book. But it had me laughing out loud. It created a problem. It introduced you to all of the characters, phenomenal voice. It's great. I think the chapters that I remember the most, the ones that are coming to mind, are all ones where I was laughing out loud in the middle of the chapter. Of course, I read in a lot of middle grade. I think John David Anderson's the greatest kid in the world. I didn't know what I was reading, and I was visiting my mom. I was on her couch in the evening. I was laughing so loud that she kept getting me to stop and to read to her what I was reading, which was, I don't often laugh out loud. So it was great. So yeah, middle grade, if you can make me laugh, I'll remember your first chapter.
Well, I'm going to mention this book right here, which is called Meet Me Under the Lights by Cassie Miller, and it's coming out next year. And I think what she does really well in this first chapter is kind of something that we've all talked about. Like, she establishes character really quickly. She establishes voice. She establishes conflict between her and the main characters, the love interest. It is a romance. So there's a lot of things that are being established right away. And it's also so very real and atmospheric that you are immediately just dropped into the scene and you easily follow along. And I think it's funny, which I think is really good. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to read that one. Another one that just came to mind was R.F. Wong's Babel. That first chapter was phenomenal. And I think this is an important thing if you're writing historical or fantasy that you do need to do in your first chapter is establish kind of the rules of, that book is amazing. Establish the rules of the world and the magic system in that first chapter, or at least a hint of it. It doesn't have to be completely like ironed out, but you have to have a sense of what makes it, the magic kind of tick. And create a sense of what the world is like and its value systems in a first chapter. And she does it so well. And actually the first couple of paragraphs of chapter 2 are some of the most beautiful writing I actually typed it out myself because I wanted to see the flow of the sentences and how it worked. It was just beautiful writing.
Coolio.
We got some Johnny's here with us, Jackie. So
what?
from our previous question.
Oh,
So yes, the protagonist did it, and why? He believes he killed his father and tells us from retrospective the events that led up to the father dying, and we see what hand the protagonist
Uh-oh.
oh, okay. Are we still here?
played.
Yeah.
I'm here.
This is
Are
John.
you here?
Okay.
Yes. Anne's there.
Kelly.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, well, I was going to say this goes back to the point you made that what are the stakes for the reader?
Mhm.
So if you start by saying, you know, character believes he killed his father, and then the rest of the book shows you how that played out, well, obviously the stakes are very high for the character, but what promise are you making to the reader? Like, what is the hook for the reader in being interested to know what role he played? And I think this can be a trick if you're sort of doing like a prologue-y thing kind of from the future and then going back to the past and leading back up to the point you started, because it's very hard to do without having sort of deflated your own tires. And it can be done, and it can be done well, but you just have to make sure that there's enough meat to hook the reader in wanting to know why. Like, why are we wanting this character to solve the puzzle of the role he played?
I think what you're trying to say, and I'll say it more bluntly, is why should we care?
Well,
Why
yes,
should
but
we
I
care
wasn't
about
going
Mic
to.
drop. Mic drop.
I may have thought it. I didn't
Well,
say
I
it.
don't know.
but that is what
I'm just gonna.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put it to the point. But yeah, I mean that's really important. Like, why should the reader care about this main character? Why should we want to follow their story and know whether this person did or did not kill their father? You know, I mean, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. It can be done well. If it's done well, it's probably it could work really well. But we have to care, and I think that's really what is at the heart of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have an interesting question before we go to this one. Are there any conventions of what the first sentence, paragraph, chapter should be based on the genre, subgenre of the book?
Should be substantively or should be word length wise? I think substantively, like what it should contain.
Are there any conventions of what the should be based on the genre or subgenre?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to be writing something that maybe has a hint of fantasy later, you have to somehow hint at the fantasy that's coming. So you can't just start completely. I mean, even if we are in the contemporary world, there has to be some sort of hint that there will be some sort of magical, speculative something element later. Otherwise, we will feel like, wait a minute, where did that come from? So I do think that that is something that is conventionally something we need to see, right?
And I think also the tone of the voice has to be consistent with the subject matter, the genre. Like, you're not going to write horror and have the first chapter sound like it's a rom-com. You know, it shouldn't sound comedic, or vice versa. Like, you have to make sure the tone is consistent with the story that you're writing.
Yeah, the way I would put that, and I'm saying the same thing as everyone else, is I wouldn't look at it in terms of the genre. I would look at it in terms of the promises you're making to the reader.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so if you looked at Cynthia Timotei's opening, it's very clear the ride you're in for from that one sentence. And then you stick with that consistently. So I think if you're consistent with the genre and the character, you know, you're fine.
Right.
Same.
Do you want to read it, Lane?
I didn't want to step on your toes. In an adult novel, speculative fiction, is there a hard limit on the use of profanity, i.e., fuck, within dialogue? It is also in the opening sentence spoken by the MC. I don't think so. I mean, look at what do you call it? I can't Catch Her in the Rye. It was so profane, it was outlawed or banned from schools.
I mean, I think that it has to make sense for the story and the character. I think like it's the whole, you know, if it's just for shock value, then it's probably not very effective. But if it makes sense for the story and the character, then I don't see any problems with it. And that also goes with like I think with horror and gore. Like I just don't think it's for shock factor. Like, are we doing it for shock factor? Or are we doing it for a reason for the story? Right. So.
And the other thing I would push you on is, you know, very common curse words are like kind of lazy verbs. Like, you know, if you can use strong verbs, you don't need to use weak verbs and adverbs. If you can come up with the way a character talks to indicate what a very common swear word would be, but maybe they have their own lingo or their own words they use or their own turns of phrase, you know, I mean, not only can these words be shock value, but they can also just be lazy writing. Like, I want to convey that my character's a tough guy, so I'll have him say the F word a lot. Well, can you do that in a more interesting way? So, I mean, I'd also put that to you as well.
True. If an author has strong pages, could the query and or synopsis still stop you from requesting?
I mean, not me personally.
And you are very fervent and passionate about this.
I mean, it could, yeah. Unfortunately, it could. Because if there's times where I just don't have time to go and read all the pages all the time. So if I do a quick pass on the query and it's trying to sell me something that I know that isn't maybe something that I'm interested in, but the pages are different, I don't know. So yeah, that's probably a tough thing to say, but it's the honest thing to say.
No, but also if the synopsis suggests that this isn't the kind of book that you would rep for whatever reason, then it's not doing the author any favors reading the pages. Even if they're great pages, it's not the kind of project you would offer rep to for whatever reason.
And I'll also say, though, too, to add to that, because what I've been seeing a lot in my inbox lately are synopsises that are not synopsises, which means that they're not telling me the whole story. And so the ending is very open-ended, or it like ends with like a question, or like, oh, the themes of this book are blah, 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 blah. But that's not an ending. That's not a synopsis. And in a synopsis, I expect to be told the entire story, because part of my enjoyment of reading the pages after reading a synopsis is to see the dominoes being lined up. It doesn't ruin anything for me as a reader. But however, if you're sending me a 110,000 word fantasy book and then you don't tell me how the book ends, I have to assume that it ends on a cliffhanger because that's what you've just said in the synopsis. And I don't have time to read 110,000 words to see if there is an ending or not, if it feels satisfying or not. So,
yeah, I'm with
Anne. Yeah, I get a lot of queries saying, oh, well, I don't want to ruin it for you in the synopsis. I'm like, that's what I want. I'm not going to read it for the cliffhangers because I don't know you. I don't know the book. I have stuff to do. I'm not trying to read it for fun. I'm trying to read it to decide whether I want to try and go sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a terrible synopsis reader and I don't require them. But if you're concerned, I mean, I just don't. I don't think they're often written well, you know. I do tend to just read the pages. But that said, to confirm what everyone else has said, it's not going to ruin it because your agent is probably going to do 25 rounds of revisions with you, and then the editor is going to do 25, and everyone's going to have to read the book over and over again. So if you're worried that it's, you need the shock value of reading it the first time and getting to the amazing ending, and that's the whole point of the book, I mean, we're all going to read it a lot of times if we're working on it. So, the writing has to hold up.
So here's another question that came in from Instagram. What are some of the ways a new author can stand out to a literary agency with their first book?
Please don't do anything cute.
I don't even know where you found this.
Yeah,
I found it.
I think you write a good book.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a writer, and if I knew all this stuff, I would be. I just write a good book. That's all you got to do. I know that's
It's a boring
thing that-
answer, but it's true.
It's a boring answer. I think to narrow it down just a touch more is have a strong concept, know what your hook is, know who your reader is. So the more you know about what your book is and who it speaks to, the easier it will be for you to try to tell an agent about it.
Yeah.
And I'll add, Anne is a writer, which is why she knows how to say all that. I'm not a writer. So next question.
Even if it's a really strongly written book, if it feels overly familiar or it's been done before, it's not going to stand out. So I think that's what Anne was also saying. Your concept has got to be really fresh.
And can I also say something to that point? I know I always say this, but ignorance of the canon is not originality, as one of my dear mentors would say. So don't think that you are going to achieve what Kelly just said by never reading a book yourself, because, you know, the thinking being, therefore, what I write is going to be the most original thing ever. No, it probably won't be. It'll probably be what a dozen other people have already, the agent's seen a dozen more of those in their inbox that day. Know what's out there in the market so you can know what distinguishes your work.
Thank you, Charles. You are a good one. You are a mensch, and I'm sure the only one out there. Here's another one. Why is it so difficult to get a literary agent? If you're not famous, how do you convince an agent to work with you? I guess
these questions.
That's
They're in the document. It's
yes.
I got them. Don't worry. They're
Chelsea
coming. Lane's just picking and choosing. So I got it.
Yes. So I guess that goes along with what we just said.
Well, I mean, why is it so difficult to get a literary agent? There are more writers than there are agents. That's probably number one, right? So it's just numbers. Sheer numbers is part of the equation. But then there's also less books that are being published than there are books that are being pitched to editors. So again, it's just a numbers kind of situation. So I mean that's a big part of it. But I think that by doing these things, by doing your homework, by just Googling how do I write a query letter, you're already steps ahead. So just if that's the goal, then you just have to keep pushing forward.
What's the statistic? 1% of people get an agent, and of those, 5% get a deal or a book deal?
Something like that.
I don't know the statistics.
I could just be making that up, to be honest with you. Next question. First web pages.
There's some in the comments. No, there's some in the comments. Did you want to do those first? Or?
Yeah. Sure. Do you also help pitches? No.
Pitch scripts.
Pitch scripts. No, I don't think we do. Do we?
Well, Eric does.
Eric does, but Eric's not here. So that's an easy one.
Oh.
Ann Rose.
I know.
You and I are.
My clicker's not clicking.
Is there any harm in querying small presses alongside agents? Is it appropriate to nudge agents if you get an offer of publication through a small press? Ooh, someone else take this one for me.
I have big feelings on it, so I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything.
What
I have big feelings on it.
Don't then if you have big feelings.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that what becomes tricky here is that when you do this, you are essentially kind of tying our hands in a way. Because if you do get a small press deal, which is great, that's awesome, but what are we going to do with that? Like, are you planning on taking the small press deal? In which case you might not really need us in the long run. But if you reject that small press deal because we think that it could possibly sell to a bigger press and it doesn't, then you put yourself in a situation where you might always be wondering, well, what should I have just taken that deal? So it kind of puts, in my opinion, us in between a rock and a hard place, because it's either like, we say yes and like we try to take it and we try to sell it, but if it doesn't, it puts us in a predicament of you being the author being upset that we couldn't sell it and they had a deal and we didn't take it, and now their book isn't being published. So the question then becomes, is it worth it to kind of manage those expectations on top of already trying to manage expectations of an author trying to sell a book? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I get this a lot. And I tell people, look, my whole goal in life is to be honest and not have people not mad at me. So, like, you know, what Anne said, we don't want to take that opportunity away. It's just, I agree with everything Anne said, and she said it much better than I could.
Yeah, so it just, at the end of the day, like, I understand like the lure of doing it because you might end up getting a small press deal, but I guess it comes down to what is your ultimate goal? Is the ultimate goal being published, or is the ultimate goal getting an agent and then hopefully from there getting published? So up to you.
Yeah, and following from, I would much rather see, if you're going to do that, and there's nothing wrong with doing it, but I would much rather see someone in my inbox say, I've been offered a contract from a small press, I've decided to take it, so I'm withdrawing my query. But I think what a lot of people do is they say, I've got an offer from a small press, and you get in the situation Anne mentioned. And I typically, when that comes up, I don't think I've ever offered when someone has said, I've got an offer from a small press. Because as Anne has said, they're two different things. You know, the stuff we do where we're negotiating contracts with, you know, I mean, I do some small press work, but that's kind of with existing clients. I wouldn't ever want to take that away from someone. So I would always say, if you like the offer, take the offer.
It's a good question, though.
It's a good question.
I think it's a good one to frequently talk about.
Yep.
Because I do see that often in my inbox.
Piggybacking off of Bree, do you plan to have conversations if an author nudges you on this, if their priority is an agent? I'm in a situation and now panicking slightly. Don't panic. Don't panic. I think that I think it's about being aware for yourself of what you want in the long run and then just communicating what your goals are. So don't panic. If you have a small offer from a press, congratulations. That is amazing. So yeah. So don't panic. Anybody else?
Well, I was going to say, can I say something else? If people are doing that and they get an offer from a small press, I mean, there's small presses and small presses. There's small presses and predatory small presses.
Yeah.
So as the attorney on the panel, I would always say before making a decision, either way, have someone look at the contracts, because, you know, I consult and I know, you know, I can always, you can email me, I can put you in touch with people who don't charge a particular large amount of money to look at your contract, and it's so worth it because you know, there's small and there's small bordering on predatory.
Yeah.
All right. Now, which question did you want to ask, Lane?
First, the web pages.
Okay, got you. I'm following you here now.
All right. What do you want to see for a new author's first author webpage? What platform should they demonstrate for fiction and nonfiction queries? When should the first pre-launch webpage go live? Thank you. That is a lot for my brain to wrap around because it's internet webs.
I feel like what they're really asking is, what do we want to see in an author website? I think that's kind of what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
You think so, Kelly?
I do. I think that is. And it's just, well, there's two different questions here. The first is what do they want to see? What would we want to see in a website? And really, if you haven't been published yet, it's really just claiming your space and the fact that you have a platform that you can eventually build off of. I think that's good. Just should be clean. It should be professional. It should represent you. And just show your personality. There's so much stuff on the internet that you can find that gives you examples of what you could put on a first website if you haven't been published yet. But the second is in what platform does an author need for fiction or nonfiction when they're querying? I think that's what they're asking. And I'll let you nonfiction. I mean, I've done some nonfiction, but Jackie and Lane, you do much more. And you've got a lot of nonfiction too.
A lot? No.
There's some.
I don't think you need a platform for fiction. You just write a book. But for nonfiction, Jackie, can you explain that? Because I'm just going to sound like a buffoon and stutter over myself.
Well, I mean, I'll often say in a wish list, I'm looking for platform-driven nonfiction, by which I don't necessarily mean you need to be famous, you need to have 500 million followers on whatever. I mean that you have to be a recognized authority in the thing you're writing. So, either you're a TikTok sensation, and your platform is the stuff you do on TikTok, and that's what you're writing about, or you're a, nationally recognized expert in the thing that you're writing about. So you're going to have some kind of online footprint, but the kind of online footprint is going to differ depending on what the basis of your authority is to write the book. And I think people often just confuse platform with how many followers you have, and often it is. But not always. There has to be a connection between your platform and the thing you're writing. That was it. That was my answer.
Nope, that's exactly it. Like Robin George Andrews, I have no idea what his social media platform is, but he writes for New York Times, Atlantic, Atlantis Obscura. I probably said that wrong. Scott J. Moses. What if a large press that doesn't normally accept unagented submissions? If you happen to get an offer from one, is it standard to seek out an agent to help go over the contract, mediate, etc.? Yes, and you should, because you don't know what you don't know, and agents will always get you more money, or in general, get you more money that is far outweighs the 15% you give them. Plus, there's a saying, the lawyer who represents themselves has a fool for a client. You're basically representing yourself and have a fool for a client. Not to sound too harsh, but I have big feels, as Anne says. Big feels.
Big feels.
Are
we doing more questions? Or are we, because we have come up on our hour, so I just didn't know.
No, if there's any more questions, we can answer. Thank you, team. I have to head out. Bye, Zilla.
Well, there is one more I know in our document here, so I'll go ahead and put that up.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, there's one before we get to that. So, oh wait, where'd it go?
Yeah, okay.
It went away. Oh, it's back.
Sorry.
No,
I know, my clicker's not clicking. Okay, so this one came in. So we'll do this one first. What are your thoughts on self-publishing through KDP or Barnes & Noble? So, I mean, in what respect? I think that it's a very valid way of becoming a published author.
I have no thoughts.
My thought is it goes back to something Anne said earlier. I think it just goes back to your intention. I think if you're prepared to put in the time and effort to learn the platform properly, to do it well, you can be very successful, and you can have complete control over your project and over your marketing, and you become your own little business, your own publisher. But you have to do that work, because if you just throw a book up online and expect people to buy it, and then you go and contact an agent and say, well, I self-published this and no one bought it, so can you help me now? That's not going to work. But I have clients who are very successful hybrid authors who are very good at doing the online thing, and also do, in fact, PJ Hoover, Dragons versus Unicorns, that we spoke about before, is amazing with self-publishing and also amazing at traditional publishing, but she puts in the work. If you put in the work, I think you can do very well.
I agree.
All right. This was our last question from our form. Lane, go ahead.
If a book doesn't seem to fit into an existing genre trend, do some agents take the chance of creating a new trend, i.e. creating the next romantasy trend? I have a story about this that I tell everyone because I kick myself for it. The book that started romantasy, literally started the trend, came in, author wanted me to represent them, and I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. Oh, I know this is going to be big, but I just don't have the time. Lo and behold, sold for 6 figures, and now I'm just an old man shaking his fist at the cloud. Yeah, exactly. But I think to that point, I think agents are let's start the trend as opposed to let's not.
I would also say about that right at this particular moment in time, just because things are pretty tough economically in publishing, I'm finding publishers more reticent to take a chance on something new and different. And oh my giddy aunt, aren't you in bed? Seriously. What is your father doing? Anyway,
I love him. Patrick, I love him. He's fantastic.
Well, I believe my child to have morphed into a sunglass-wearing cat, but yes, I do think there are times maybe when it's easier to do something risky, and sometimes it's harder. Does that change how I feel about a book I love? Probably not. But I do see pushback now that maybe I wouldn't have seen a few years back.
But you don't want to encourage people to write to trends, because what's a trend now, by the time a book comes out, it's sold, it's been, it takes years to sell a book and then have it be published. It's not going to be a trend in 3 years. It's so, I do think we go back to what we try to sell is what we hear editors asking for. So, and that's not always what's trending at the moment.
To interrupt you about writing to trends, remember Highlanders?
Yeah.
Everyone wanted Highlanders for years, and everyone was still writing Highlanders because people were publishing Highlanders, and editors were already saying no more Highlanders.
Yeah.
And I think the comment that I was making before, and I probably mischaracterized this, I sometimes do fall in love with things that are just really weird and quirky. And there are times when it's harder to take a chance on those than when so I'm not suggesting everyone should write to a trend, and I didn't mean to imply that, and I think I accidentally did imply that. So I wholeheartedly agree with Kelly. I think you should, I always say, I think you should write what you need to write the book that you need to write. If it's not the time in the market, you can wait. If you don't want to wait, you can, and you have the wherewithal and the time, you can self-publish and be your own publisher. So, I mean, this is a time in publishing where you have a lot of options.
I personally love taking a chance on something new if I really love it. So it absolutely, even if no editor has ever said to me they want XYZ and I love it, I will take it on and I will try to sell it. So I don't know. I guess I'm a black sheep in that sense. I don't.
I've just been burned lately.
No, I get it. I do it with anthologies because everyone says no one buys anthologies, and then you take a swing. What is your feeling about entering novel excerpt contests before querying agents? I have big feels about this too, and I don't know what they are.
What?
He has no feelings on this. I think it's fine. I just think that I think it's important to understand what you're signing into beforehand. So make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're offering them to publish this in the future, blah, blah, blah. So just read the details of the contest ahead of time and know what you're signing up for. But I don't see it as an issue in seeking representation in the future.
Okie doke. And that's why I'm here, Anne. That's right. So I think that's been our, what month is it? October live AMA. We'll have the next one last Wednesday of November at 7 p.m. Eastern.
That's
Is it like
actually the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's
I
the
think
day
it's
before
the day.
Thanksgiving.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
right.
so I don't think we should do that.
No, but we'll
So
change.
yeah, we'll figure something out. But I hope everyone enjoyed themselves, and if not,
Send this to your enemies so they can watch it.
Yeah. Tell your enemies it's the best thing ever and ruin their day. Waste an hour of their life.
I have two things to say. Shower and bed, you have school tomorrow.
I love your kid, Jackie.
Yeah.
I'm being trolled by a child.
Basically.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, everyone. See you on the flip side. That is the end of our live. I'm ending stream now.
Bye, everyone.
Night.